This is Inside the FLX from FingerLakes1.com, special edition. I'm Ted Baker in studio, and Universal Pre-K. It's coming to Seneca Falls. It's been a long time in the works, and here to talk about it, we have Seneca Falls Superintendent Jeremy Klingerman, from Frank Knight Elementary School, the principal, Janet Clendenin, and Director of Curriculum, Instruction, Assessment, and Personal Development, Jody Verkey. Good morning, and welcome to you all.
Good morning, Ted. Good morning.
We'll start with you, Jeremy. This has been a long time coming. Let's talk about the grant. Where does this grant come from to make this a reality?
Sure. So starters, thank you, Ted, for this opportunity for us to come in and talk about the program and inform the community in greater depth about it. So thank you to you and Finger Lakes One for this opportunity. So it's interesting, when you started, you referenced Universal Pre-K. And really, Universal, we think about that opportunity for everybody to have the opportunity for a pre-K program. And that's not the case. It's very competitive. And so for years, Seneca Falls has been competing for this grant. And the numbers that they use, the metrics that they've used are outdated. And so it's been years going back, I'm not sure how far back, but certainly to Mr. McKevney. Mr. McNamara was president of the board at the time, that they were out there trying to advocate for Seneca Falls to get more funding and show the discrepancies between the data they're using versus what the demographics are today. So coming on board, we continue with that advocacy. Myself, Mr. McNamara, Ms. Lujeski, the current board president, Heather Zellers, the vice president, and really going to State Education Department, the Board of Regents, our local state representatives, trying to paint that picture of the funding that we're getting, which was very minimal, $13,000 a year basically, to what other districts were getting and continued to get more and more. And some districts having 4-year programs already and getting funding for 3-year programs, yet we were not getting only the $13,000 a year. So I think coupled between the efforts of many people over the years, along with the government, federal and state, putting more money towards UPK programs, we were fortunate to finally get up to $360,000 for next year's program. So that funding is based on, the flow is based on the number of students that actually attend. So if we get the 36 students that we're hoping we do get, we will get that full $360,000. That's adjusted over time. Obviously, being a new program, there's additional expenses from the start, but we can count on that money continuing to flow to support the faculty and staff that it needs, the transportation costs, food, etc. So we're very grateful that we finally got this opportunity. It's been a lot of hard work. We're having meetings every week between the two of us, Mr. Bruni, Mrs. Blamble, joining those conversations and planning. Ms. Clendenin, really credit to her for putting in the most time and energy in planning for this and making it a reality here in a few months.
So it's funny, I'm so used to hearing that term, universal pre-K. I said it, and then of course it's not universal in this case. So who did you have to convince, and why weren't they granting the funding?
Yeah, they were using old numbers. They were looking at numbers from the early 1990s, which shows us that a much wealthier ratio. They weren't looking at what the wealth is today, the free and reduced numbers. So really it was just having those conversations to make people understand that here's what we're getting, this is what it's based on, when truly this is who we are and this is what our funding should look like. And just painting that picture, as I said, that there's area districts that have 4-year programs already, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars, got increased funding so they could start 3-year programs, yet we couldn't even get enough to get a 4-year program going. So again, just talking to Senator Helming was a big advocate for us, the Board of Regents, the State Education Department, the Finance Department at the state level. Number of people just continuing to advocate, rural schools associations, New York State Board of Education, getting them to help us to paint the picture of what we're getting versus what we should be getting to finally get that funding. So again, I think it's coupled with increase in funding and our advocacy efforts over the years. A number of people, prior to us and us continuing that work.
Is there a chance it will become universal someday in New York?
So I think more recently, those are the conversations that are being had, both at the federal level right down to the state level. So hopefully that does happen, because there's a number of other schools out there that still don't have it. Something I read recently, the governor stated that there's a number of districts leaving the money on the table. They have money available and they're not using it. And that's where the red tape, the government, the way they work, I'm sure that's been happening for years. If they really looked at that, could have made that money available to districts like us previously. But
let's talk about some of the logistics. Jody Verke, first off, 36 slots available. How many signups do we have so far?
Yeah, we're right around 24, 25, so we're making great progress. We've done a lot of pushing out on our social media sites, district website, Facebook page, Twitter. But we're here today, and thank you again for allowing us to be here to try to reach those families who aren't connected to the school district already, to make sure that they're aware of the opportunity. So we're making progress, but we're looking at a March 18th deadline date for registration, which will allow us to do the planning necessary to continue to move forward in implementation.
Do you have a number on how many kids would be eligible if everybody tried to sign up who was eligible?
Geez, if it was everybody, so I look at our numbers in kindergarten, first and second grade, and we're running right around 90 students on average per grade level in the district, give or take, right? So some are down to 85. We have classes that are up to 107, 108. So, but I would say 90 would be right around the number. So there are going to be families who do not make it into the program if we fill up those 36 slots. However, we will have a wait list. So if a family is not able to get in through a lottery, so our process will be March 18th is that registration deadline. And if we have more than 36 applicants fully registered at that point in time, there will be a lottery. And then April 4th through the 8th, we will be sending letters out to families sharing with them that, yes, you did receive a slot through that lottery, or you will be placed on the wait list, and if an opportunity opens up, we will be in contact with you.
So like you said, we're getting close to the deadline. Some registration packets have gone out. If somebody's watching this and says, oh my goodness, I didn't know about this, sign me up, how can they get a packet?
Yes, great question. So they can contact our district office. They will speak with Jackie Brown, and that phone number is 315-568-5818. And Jackie Brown, who works in the office there as well, is willing to help people. So if there is some barrier to them understanding the application process, or if they just have a question, she will sit and talk them through that application process to ensure everyone has equal opportunity to register.
This is one way you're reaching out to the community to let them know. What else are you doing to find people who may not know this program's happening?
Yeah, I think another great shout out is to some community agencies downtown and around the town of Seneca Falls who have put flyers up that we've made. So we've tried to spread the word, like I said, through social media. This will be a big help for sure. And just common places around town where people visit to try to get that word out. The newspaper, Ted. The newspaper also has been great in running articles for us in terms of sharing that information.
So, Jana, is there anything you have to do? Is there space already in the building, or do you have to juggle classroom space around? What are you doing to get ready for the program?
Well, we've been excited to welcome UPK for many years, just hoping that it would come to fruition. So we do have a plan in place. We do have the classrooms already established in terms of which classrooms we're using. It did result in some movement, but overall I think that our faculty and staff are very excited to welcome the program into the building, and we're very willing to make the adjustments necessary to make it happen.
So there'll be 2 classrooms of 18 students each. What will a typical day look like? When will it start and end, and what sort of programming and curriculum will there be?
The UPK program will mirror the Frank Knight schedule, so those eligible for district transportation will ride the bus in, and their day will start like a typical Frank Knighter. They will start with breakfast in the classroom, and their schedule will be very specific throughout the day. They will have some specials, they'll have group time, they'll have many opportunities to engage in various play activities that are intentional play. Whole group, the instructional program is going to be a really fantastic program that's standards-based, but also really recognizes the need for those social interactions, the language-based program. just numerous opportunities for various centers, dramatic play, music, really a full day of fun and learning opportunities.
Do you need to bring in any additional faculty or staff for the program, or will it be taught by people that are already there?
Well, interestingly enough, we just completed the interview process for the UPK classroom teachers, and we did have internal interest. Moving forward, we will be hiring teaching assistants for those 2 teaching assistant positions. We do have internal candidates interested. We're also looking to hire additional teacher aides to help support that program. So there's been a variety of internal interest and external interest at this point.
How do you teach 4-year-olds? I had 4-year-olds once, and just herding them in one direction is quite a challenge.
I think initially the adults in the classroom will definitely have the challenges of getting those students really engaged in a schedule, a routine, which is a lot of work at the beginning, but then that pays off towards mid-year when those students really adjust to the schedule and the routine and are able to really facilitate as a student in a learning environment.
And Jody, you're the director of curriculum, so is there a state template for UPK curriculum that you follow, or do you design it completely yourself, or is it a little of both? Do you have some freedom to design?
Yeah, great question. So, traditionally in Seneca Falls, there's a lot of autonomy and freedom in creating that standards-based curriculum. With our UPK program, it's much more structured. The grant really directs us where we need to go with lots of things like that. So it will be a program that we will purchase that is very structured, provides many resources and materials for the teacher to choose from. And as Janet mentioned, incorporating play and language intentionally into the day through centers and through some explicit teaching, but lots of opportunities for them to interact and socialize is all kind of spelled out in a program that we're going to be purchasing through the UPK grant, allowing that teacher to kind of filter through, use their expertise to do what's best for students that are in front of them. So it will be really interesting. It's going to be exciting, and they're going to have a lot of materials and resources to choose from to help them move those students forward.
And we should, I don't think I've pointed out yet, this is a no-cost program. It includes breakfast and lunch. I mean, this is going to be a boon for some families for the 36 that get in.
Absolutely. They will be eating family style as well for lunch, so which is interesting, right? A lot of social skill development goes into this program. So we're really hopeful and we're really excited to see how that plays out as a benefit to our whole educational system as they move through kindergarten, first grade, and so on.
So obviously at this age, it's a little less structured than you'd be in elementary school or high school. What's going to be taught in terms of actual courses, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, so it isn't necessarily courses, right? And it isn't necessarily spelled out as in, this is your math time or your reading time or your science time. It's all kind of incorporated together with that socialization aspect. So lots of the learning happens through center-based instruction. So if you visualize what a typical classroom looks like, these days through COVID protocols, we're back to more rows. Prior to that, we were more in a group setting, right? Students were maybe in small groups around the room. You're going to see things similar to that where there might be 4 students at a table, and it may be, as Janet mentioned, a music center, or it may be students using manipulatives and trying to create patterns, right? And as they're creating those patterns, they're counting, right? So that's where the math kind of is incorporated in. So subtle, intentional ways to build in those instructional content pieces through play, right? So it's really a craft from the teacher point of view. And we have some veteran teachers who are going to lead that program, so we're super excited with what they're going to bring to the table.
It's like getting them to eat their vegetables. If you disguise it as fun, they don't even know they're learning.
Got to be creative and
happy.
innovative, right? Exactly. Like vegetable eating. You got it, Ted.
Have any of you gone to other UPK programs and other schools to observe and sort of get an idea of what to look for?
Yes, we have. In previous years, I myself have gone to visit a few different districts when we were hopeful that we would receive enough grant funding to support a program. So we did start the process a few years ago, and then recently Jody and I both had the opportunity to visit a couple districts, as well as planning a couple more visits now that we have the UPK teachers on our team. We look forward to taking them onto some of the district visits.
Jeremy, let's talk about the busing part of this. Of course, until you know who's in, you don't know where you're going to be picking up kids. So how will you coordinate with existing bus routes, and maybe if there's a big concentration in this one neighborhood, is that going to create a difficulty in transportation?
Yes, I don't think the numbers, where they're located will be such a challenge. So we'll offer transportation to students when they're 4 years and older. So if they, at the start of the program, if they're 3 years old, they'll have to provide their own transportation until turning 4 years old. Then we will start picking them up door to door. So just like we do with kindergarten, and then there's an adjustment as kids get older, whether they're picked up at their door or a bus stop based on the number of people in the area. But being so young, we will pick them up, door to door. So that, the challenge is being younger. Janet does a great job even with kindergartners. We'll do the same with that orientation, if you will, and trying to help them and the parents make that adjustments because that's their first experience with a bus in school. So there'll be some training and some learning curve to that, but overall, I think it'll go well with those 4-year-olds in making that adjustment.
It's always interesting, first time kids on the bus, parents are always on edge because you don't know what they're going to freak out. Usually they just find a friend, jump on the bus, and they don't even turn around and wave.
Yeah. As adults, we're more nervous.
Kids are resilient, as we've seen, right?
So, Janet, is there going to be any kind of assembly or welcome kind of ceremony or anything when the new kids come in, or is that like too much for little 4-year-olds?
I think for 3 and 4-year-olds it can be a little overwhelming, especially in a large group setting. So we'll have some activities already planned to help welcome them into the building, but it will most likely be classroom oriented, so they're not overwhelmed initially coming into the building. But we do look forward to having our UPK students join us for our building assemblies that we will be having hopefully once we can return to some degree.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking. It's been a long time since there's been an assembly, I suppose, other than maybe on Zoom.
So we do look forward to having them as part of our entire school building community and welcoming them to those assemblies.
Jody, how will you evaluate the program and see how you're doing, and at the end of year one, have a review and go, this is what was great, this is what could be better?
Yes, great question, Ted. There are actually many of those opportunities built in through the grant, through formal assessments. So the teachers will be assessing the programs throughout the course of time. Janet, as the building principal, will be assessing the program multiple times throughout the year using a specific assessment tool that's written into the grant, of which training is necessary for, and so on. There will also be audits from the state who will come in and make sure that we're following all the requirements written in the grant, as well as just the UPK overall standards-based curriculum. So there are lots of checkpoints that we're required to go through and to ensure that we're following things and there's a standard for that UPK program across the state, and that we're meeting that standard. So there's a lot of self-checks in there that are necessary to keep things moving forward.
So once again, the deadline to return registration packets is March 18th. If there are more than 36, the lottery will be held on March 31st. Application notification letters will go out April 4th through 8th. You can contact Ms. Clendenin at 315-568-5500, extension 3100, to find out more about the program. 315-568-5500, extension 3100. Any closing thoughts or anything I've left out that you'd like to say?
Oh, just thank you, and we're super excited for this opportunity for our families and for the community.
Well, this is terrific. Let's hope it's the first of an expanding program and that everybody gets this opportunity soon.
Yes, for
Agreed.
Sure. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you all very much. We've been joined on Inside the FLX today by Seneca Falls Superintendent Jeremy Klingerman, Frank Knight Elementary School Principal Janet Clendenin, and Director of Curriculum Instruction, Assessment, and Personal Development, Jody Verke, pre-K, coming to Seneca Falls. Exciting news. Inside the FLX has been produced by Nate Sharman. We've got more great podcasts coming up, so stick around and watch those, and thanks for watching us today.